Hi, so today we'll be talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill. So, exactly 1 year ago, President Donald Trump signed a new law. It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill. It changes healthcare and everything else, including taxes for everyday Americans. And I'll show you guys both sides. I'll show you guys what Fox News has to say and what other news channels like MSNBC, CNN, and Democratic-led news channels have to say. So let's get into it. So first of all, what is the bill and how did it get here? So the bill is a giant law. It's almost 940 pages long. President Donald Trump signed it into law on July 4th, 2025, on Independence Day. Now, the real name of this bill is Public Law 119 21, but everyone just calls it the One Big Beautiful Bill, as we all know it. It touches on almost everything. So, everything from your taxes to your healthcare to the help that people get for food to the border and other things. It got passed using a special rule that only needs 51 votes in the House and the Senate. I mean, in the Senate, in the House, it needed a simple majority, anyways. Now, that's how the Republicans got it through without Democrats voting yes. How long did it take to pass? This bill took months to get done. It started back in February 2025. The House passed the first version in May 2025 by just one vote. Then the Senate worked on it for weeks. At the end of June, the Senate did something called vote-a-rama. That means 24 hours straight of voting on changes to the bill. Now, Democrats made Senate workers read the whole 940 pages bill out loud to slow things down. On July 1st, 2025, Senate passed it. The vote was tied 50-50. So Vice President J.D. Vance had to cast in and put a tie-breaking vote to pass the bill. Three Republicans even voted no. Then it went back to the House. A Democrat leader named Hakeem Jeffrey gave a speech for over 8 hours long to try to stop it, the longest speech in the history's House. It didn't work. The House passed it on July 3rd, 2025. The next day, July 4th, President Donald Trump signed it into law with jets flying over the White House. So, in short, it was a long, messy fight, and every single Democrat voted against it. What's actually in the bill? So, this is going to be a very interesting part. We'll break down exactly what was in the bill, all the policies, to all the changes and everything. So, the first part that was in the bill was taxes. This is the biggest part of the bill. It keeps tax cuts from 2017 in part forever. So the 2017 tax cuts that President Donald Trump did, now they will be permanent. So that's a pretty big thing. Otherwise, our taxes would have been raised by the end of this year automatically. So it says no taxes on tips up to $25,000. The second thing in the bill is no taxes on tips up to $25,000. That's a pretty big thing for waitresses and other people who earn from tips. The next thing is no taxes on overtime pay, up to $12,500 per person or $25,000 for a married couple. There will be no taxes on the overtime pay that you get. Now, it also gives a tax break on car loans. It also gives older people a bigger tax break. It raises the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,200, and it creates a new savings account for kids called Trump accounts. Every child born from 2025 to 2028 will get a free $1,000 in their bank accounts from the government. This was a special bank account that the government has for kids that will invest itself to earn money over time to give kids when they grow up and they go to college or other institutions to learn. Now, it also gives big companies the permanent tax break when they spend money building factories in the US or spend money doing research in the US. So that's a pretty big thing. Now, I do want to get back to some things that I did say is it gives tax breaks to older people. Older people get different taxes done from normal people because there's social a part of the social security comes in. and they get a little bit different standard deduction, which has actually been risen by $6,000. So that's a pretty big thing for our seniors in the U.S. Now, the next thing that I have for you guys is the healthcare. This is where most of the fight happened. This is where the Democrats try to stall the bill from. And so the first thing in this part is the bill cuts about $1 trillion from Medicaid over the next 10 years. Medicaid is a healthcare insurance for people that earn low incomes. People that have low incomes get Medicaid. Now, starting soon, many people on Medicaid will have to prove they are working for 80 hours a month to keep their coverage. So this is basically you could say incentive to work, incentive to ensure that people give back to communities if they're taking something from the community. Now, the government will also check people's eligibility every 6 months instead of once a year. So, more crackdown on fraud to ensure that fraud is not being done as easily. Now, experts say this could cause 10 to 15 million people to lose their health insurance by 2034. But you also have to keep in mind that Medicaid is for people who are actually in need, not for people to tell their fake incomes and then take Medicaid or insurance that cost other people, that cost everyday tax Americans to pay more taxes. Now, small rural hospitals are worried that they might have to close because of less Medicaid money coming in. So that's a pretty big thing. Now, I do know that President Donald Trump did say that there's a $50 billion fund that will be set aside just for these rural hospitals, but we'll have to keep an eye and we'll have to see what actually happens. So now the next thing I have for you guys is the SNAP benefits, the food stamps. States now have to help pay more for food stamps in their states. The state governments have to pay actually more for food stamp benefits in their states instead of the federal government giving that benefit. People also have new rules they must follow to keep getting food stamps. So there will be more background checks. It will be harder to get the food stamps, meaning you have to give more of your information to get it. And there will be more security in the whole process to ensure that people who are not supposed to get it don't get it. Now, here's another big thing that I have for you guys is the border and immigration. This is something that we had a problem last year for a while where two people did die from ICE and a lot of reports started to come in that ICE is going a bit crazy. Now, this bill gives about $170 billion for border security. That includes money for building the wall, for new detention centers, and more ICE agents. So that's pretty simple. Um, that's what do you say? The Congress did pass another $70 billion budget for ICE just a couple of weeks ago, ensuring that ICE will work for the next 3 years. So now here's the last thing that's a pretty big thing in this bill is the student loans. So this bill removes some student loan repayment plans like the SAVE plan, and it also puts new lower limits on how much students can borrow for grants or for loans for schools or for colleges and universities. So that's a pretty big thing. My personal belief is that students should not be borrowing money or should not be taking grants from the government. First, they keep the same students in debt for a very long time after they leave college or universities. And number two, it's going to cost the American taxpayers. Just go to your local college if you can't afford to go very far. It'll be better for everyone in the long run. Now, the next question that you might be thinking is how much did it cost? So, in short, the government's own budget office says that this bill will add about $3.3 trillion to the national debt over 10 years. That means the government will owe a lot more money in the future that taxpayers will have to pay. So, let's see what happened right away after this bill was passed. So, at first, not much changed for regular people's paychecks. Even though the tax breaks on tips and overtime started January 2025, it took months for payroll systems to catch up. So most workers didn't feel any extra money in their pockets until later. The stock market did go up a little bit since big companies like the tax breaks, but hospitals and health groups started warning right away that the Medicaid cuts could hurt people down the road. Now, this is a pretty big thing. Me personally, I don't believe in free healthcare. I believe that we should have lower taxes and lower healthcare costs that everyone can pay for their own healthcare bills. But everyone has different opinions, and that's just my opinion. Now, the next thing is what happened at the start of the year when these tax breaks did go in. So, by January 2026, paychecks finally started reflecting the new tax brackets. So, tax season from February to April 2026 saw a bigger refund for a lot of people. Some reports said the average refund jumped to about $2,476. But other studies say that real bump was smaller, more like $350 to $650 extra. But Trump said on social media that some people would get 20% more back on their taxes. Stores like Walmart and Target said more people were shopping and spending more. The stock market went up too, as investors expected more spending to be done. So, what do both sides say? This is the big thing. What Fox News and its supporters say, they call it the biggest tax cut in history. They say the average family will get an extra $7,000 to $10,000 a year. That's false. There's nothing in this bill that will get us even $7,000 a year, let alone 7,600 to 10,000. They say it's bringing back factories, jobs, and blue collar boom. Perfect. I think if it was managed properly with other factors, that would have brought back a lot of factories, more factories than we actually even thought of, and the ones that we actually even got. And they also point to bigger tax refunds as proof that this bill is working. So my only thing is, yes, this is putting discipline in Americans. Yes, this is taking burden off of everyday Americans. Yes, we are getting bigger tax breaks, and yes, this bill overall is good, but the $7,000 to $10,000 refund is false. If I had to take a guess reading this bill and not even doing my research, I would say this bill would give a maximum of $2,000 tax refund, which is pretty good, which is really good because the last 4 years the inflation and the income growth was really off. So this is really good. It helps us out with that, but not $7,000. And just overall, this bill is good. Some things I guess you can change. A lot of things are really good in it. And so let's see what the critics have to say and what the other side has to say. So they say the real refund bump is much smaller than promised. That's according to independent sources. The best way to find out is what people have to say. So we'll have to go back and see what independent videos of people actually giving interview and telling on the street what they got back, what they have to say. So they point out that gas prices and tariffs are eating up a lot of those extra refunds. They are not wrong. I'm not gonna blame the liberals on this or socialist people on this. They focus on the $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts and millions of Americans who could lose health care coverage. I'm not against this. To be honest, I think a lot of these free things that we give out should be rolled back and, in response, pay back some of the national debt and lower the taxes. So I'm not really against it. I will have to look deeply into this one topic to see how it did affect and what they could have done. But this is overall, I believe this is a really good thing. And the last thing they also say is the bill mostly helps rich people. Not true. No taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, and no taxes on Social Security for seniors is not for rich people, okay? The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was not only for rich people. Lowering the top lowering the tax rate from 12% to 10%, the base tax rate, is not for rich people. Yeah, I mean they will get affected, but this is more for the common person. They also say it mostly helps big companies, while regular families and poorer families pay the price. So I guess this is somewhat true because a lot of things do help out the big businesses, but something like buying a car and writing it off is something really good for small businesses. It helps out a lot if you buy a small car for your business, or if you buy a car for your business that is made in America, you can write that off. And there's probably some other things, but this is mostly true. Like I said, it does help out the big companies, but helping out the rich people, it's not really anything that I it'll be hard for me to believe it. And even for the big companies, let's not forget that they come back, they build warehouses, they build factories, and employ people. So that's also something that will help out in the long run. So just an overall, this whole story. So in 1 year, the bill has a mixed picture, a mix up in picture for what it wanted to show, what type of picture it wanted to have for America to work where we are actually, it's pretty mixed up. So some people are seeing the real extra cash help them out. Other people are worried about losing their healthcare coverage and losing food stamps. And the country now owes a lot more money in national debt, which I think that we should have a specific bill tackling that. And the full effects won't really be clear for the next couple of years, since a lot of these cuts haven't even started yet. So that's pretty much the one big beautiful bill. It's a pretty mix of all policies, and the effects are pretty different. The effects are, some are good, some are bad, but we must keep an eye that it's due to the foreign war that we are in and the tariffs. If those two things were not there, I believe this bill was an overall, like, out of 100%, I would say this is 80% positive. 20%, the Trump administration could have changed something in it to make it better. So, yeah, that's everything that was in the one big beautiful bill. Me overall, I'll say is good. Some things can be changed. Some things are, or actually, a lot of things are good. So, yeah, you guys can go ahead and comment below. Let me know what you guys think, and I will be surely ready to respond and tell you guys anything new that I find out. And yeah, till then, have a nice day and make sure to subscribe.